How's it going, guys? It's T-Guy Ty here. Today, I want to bring you a few tips that I think might be able to help your gameplay be a little bit smoother, both in mission and out of mission. And I don't really have much of an introduction for this video. In the last video I recorded, I was working on a Clervo build, and I showed off a tip that you could do in the settings that really changed the way that you played Clervo, turning him from just like a melee damage buffer to teleporting around the map like really fast. And that kind of inspired me to make this video. There's a few things that you can do in your settings, as well as just a few general gameplay tips that can just make your gameplay so much smoother and definitely change the way that you play the game. A few you might already know some of these tips, but stick around to the end of the video, maybe you'll see something that you didn't know. And with that, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing is the arsenal. See right up here? You click on this, loadout slots. Loadout slots definitely streamline the way that I use the arsenal. Instead of wanting to switch to my, let's just say Sevagoth build, I just have to scroll all the way down to Sevagoth, or I'd have to search him in the search bar, I'd have to click him, and then maybe switch to a different weapon that I like on him, and another different weapon that I like on him, and another different weapon that I like on him, and maybe a companion that suits him well. We'll skip straight to the point. Go to your loadout slots. I have mine categorized in alphabetical order. Now I have them. I also have like the saved operator thing that I use for this guy, the 3 weapons that I would be using for him. Also, every single time you switch to a Warframe, this way, not through the loadout way, it always goes to your first fashion slot. Sometimes you have a lot of fashions. For instance, I have 3 fashions with Sevagoth. So, oh, you know what? It was Sevagoth. It was the regular Sevagoth I had 3 fashions for. We'll go ahead and take this into consideration. We'll switch to this. Let's say I want to use this fashion for a while. Well, if I switch to a Warframe, and I switch back to that Warframe, goes to your first fashion slot. So then, if you want to use a specific fashion, you would have to go back to that Warframe, go back to appearances, switch to the tab you want. But if you use your loadout slots, I can switch to Gauss, play around with him for a little bit, switch back to Sevagoth when I want him. I already have the fashion. I already have the weapons that I wanted to use, everything. Loadout slots are awesome. But I think I rambled a little too much about fashion slots. Let's go ahead and put this fashion back. I like this a lot. Another thing that I want to talk to you about is Forma. A lot of people that I know, they do craft their daily Formas, but they still spend platinum on Forma. Spending platinum on Forma, if you craft it straight out of your foundry, it does use up a blueprint, but it does save you platinum. So if you have plenty of blueprints, definitely just craft and rush. I don't recommend going to the market and buying Forma bundles, because over here you'll buy 3 Forma for 35 platinum. Over here, if I rush it, I only had to spend 30, and every little bit of platinum counts. Another thing that I want to talk to you about, I'll have to go into a mission to show. So let's do a free roam. A free roam will probably be the best example for this, but it has to do with gear slots. Gear slots are super customizable in the settings, actually. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. So this is the gear slots. Everybody knows how the gear slots work. But what you might not know is that if you go into your settings, this tab right here, this is your controller tab. And the very top option in the controller tab, you can customize your hotkeys. Now, as you can see, my top arrow I wasn't really using, so I made the gear hotkey 2. Now, my gear hotkey 2 is energy pads. So, whenever I go into a mission, if I want the energy, normally you would have to open this up and press it. Open it up, press it. But if you have a hotkeyed, I don't have to open up. I don't have to open up the gear wheel. That's going to get distracting, so I'll go and run away from that. But yeah, another thing that I wanted to show off is that specifically on PlayStation controllers, that's what I play on, so I'll give a tip for that. When you customize your controllers, you can customize like the swiping controls. You can see that you can swipe up, swipe down, swipe left, and swipe right on this big button right here. So, if you customize that, swipe right, I summon my Necromech, because that's in my gear wheel. I can also summon this guy. I can summon specters. I can summon the ammo pads. I can even use air support. It's a very useful tip. I highly recommend looking into that. And if you do have a second to spare, I highly recommend customizing. I'm not sure how it would work on PC or any other systems that you could play on. But for me specifically, this definitely streamlines the performance of when I play. I don't have to constantly like jump around and look for something. Especially because gear wheels can definitely be a mess. Even after I organize it, I do find myself looking around every now and then for something specific. So, it just helps a lot. One more thing that I do want to talk about, if you do plan on customizing and having hotkeyed gear slots, is that I don't recommend hotkeying the very first slot. And here's exactly why. As soon as you open up the gear wheel, the first slot is already selected. So if you confirm that selection, it uses it. You don't have to press anything else. It just automatically uses the first thing in your gear slot. So you can use those hotkeys on other things. And it's not very hard to just open up the gear wheel and confirm it. It's very fast. And I like to have my Arcwing there because I use the Arcwing a lot. I mean, it's in free roams. I mean, the best mobility in free roams by far is the Arcwing, so when I'm grinding for that Aya, I already have it slotted in the first gear slot, and it's just ready for me to use whenever. There's another thing I want to talk to you about. That's going to be back in your base of operations. If you do a lot of relic cracking, you might not be very efficient about your void traces. So we'll go ahead and go right here. You can see right here at the top right of your screen, once you go to your relic section, how many void traces you have. I recommend checking that as soon as you possibly can, because you might be full on your traces. If you are, I recommend upgrading a few relics that you might be interested in upgrading. And you don't even have to crack it immediately. You can just upgrade it and just leave it for later. So that way when you do crack more relics later on, you keep earning those traces. There is no overflow system for the traces, so you can easily just loot out on, very beneficial traces. Especially when later on you want to grind for a Warframe. If you're like me, you're not going to have the best luck, and you're definitely going to have to run a lot of missions. And halfway through the grind, you're definitely going to need to farm some more traces, so just keep an eye on your traces. Make sure that you're not wasting. There's one more thing that I want to talk to you about, and that's going to be in the dojo. One of the best things, in my opinion, and I did show it off earlier, is the energy pads. Energy pads are amazing. So I'll show you where to get it. If you go to your dojo, you can fast travel to Energy Lab. There it is. Right here, Squad Energy Restore. It's sitting up here because I have a lot of things getting worked on right now, and the ones getting worked on are the ones in the front, but it'll usually be over here with the other energies. Now, you can see that there are mediums and there are larges. The large is obviously the best one, that goes without saying. It's also the most expensive one. So, if you're on a budget, the mediums are still good, and you can still spam them just like you did the large ones. So that's pretty much up to personal preference. And you have to research the medium ones before you research the large one anyways. So you'll get access to these first. But if you're not making your own dojo and you did join somebody else's clan, chances are they already have all of these researched, and I recommend replicating this blueprint as fast as possible. That's pretty much all I really have to talk about. So, I'm T-Guy Ty. I hope you enjoy these tips. I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Deuces.